Meu sonho é virar astrofísico e participar de uma missão Marte Um.
Marte Um? Que missão é essa?
Uma missão que vai acontecer em 2030 aí, que nós seres humanos vamos tentar colonizar Marte.
Nossa, Davi. Nem sei o que dizer. É isso mesmo que você quer? Ir pra Marte?
Eu tô construindo até um telescópio para poder observar melhor.
Telescópio?
Sabe que você acha besteira, não?
Não, Davinho. Não acho. É lindo. Um sonho lindo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deshaun Usher, Associate Director, Communities of Color at GLAAD, and I'm joined today by Gabriel Martins, Director and Writer of Mars One, which recently had its world premiere at the 2022 Sundance Film Festival. Thank you for joining me, Gabriel. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. So Gabriel, can you tell us a little bit about the film and what inspired you to write and direct Mars One?
Yeah, this was a film. I had the idea about 7 years ago, maybe after the World Cup here in Brazil in 2014. It was a time we were talking a lot about soccer and we had little, very political turmoil in a way. So I started to think about this image of this black kid that was playing soccer, but at the same time looking at the sky and wondering what's beyond the sky. And that made me think about this kind of unreachable dream for a kid like him, like the character Davinho. So the story is about Davinho being this character who has this dream of becoming an astrophysicist and working on this mission called Mars One to colonize Mars. But his father wants him to be a soccer player, like the next biggest soccer player from Brazil. And so we follow this family of four, which is Davinho, Wellington, the father, Tércia, the mother, who starts to have kind of anxiety crisis in the film, starting to figure out about life and death and who she is. She works as a cleaner in many houses. And the daughter, Eunice, who falls in love with a girl and will have kind of issues with her parents regarding that choice. So yeah, this is about daily life of this family and struggling to find a way to reach their dreams in a way.
No, that's pretty wonderful. And I love that it like showcases the representation of like Black Brazilians also. And so like what that life looks like and again the representation for it. The film, it seems very intentional when it comes to capturing each member of the Martin family. In fact, it's funny because when I was watching it, I was like within these first few scenes, like literally the first four scenes, like we get like this really good sense of each family member, like through their perspective and their eyes. And so, how did you decide on showcasing that dynamic of the family, and how did you capture it so beautifully?
Yeah, that was really hard, especially in the editing, to find that balance because it's four great stories, it's four great characters, and I had to find a balance, but it was always this idea of an ensemble and to see the family as a organism as a whole. I find myself as personally fractured between those characters. I can see a little bit piece of me in each one of them, things that I value, things that I want to surpass about myself, things I about the way I used to see the world. And this generation gap between the characters is something that is a battle inside my head as a man. So this is what I was feeling. And also, as you might know, this is not a very common film in Brazil. We are just recently starting to have Black directors like myself doing feature films. We don't have like a very large number in the history of Brazilian cinema. So to bring this kind of stories is kind of something we are starting to get in the last 10 years. So to have this family with this kind of remarks and this kind of characteristics, which should be something very common, because this is a very common family in Brazil, a very common configuration in a way, but it has not been. So this is also something I wanted to bring, being my first solo film, being a film that was funded by a fund specifically for Black directors or producers. So there was kind of this responsibility, but in the end was just something natural, because those people are like my family. I feel I can see in this character people that I grew up with. So it's nothing weird to me. It's just who I am in a way.
No, and that's been like really great to see the normalization of a lot of things like that, like happen inside of the film, and just the everyday, like it's okay, right? And so part of it is when we think about like the film, it introduces us into like the queer culture of Brazil, with like the club scene that gives us the first glimpse of Eunice and Joanna, and like what goes on to then explore their relationship. So what was I guess like why was it important for you to tell this storyline also? Um yeah, so what was important telling that
Yeah,
storyline?
I'm 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 very invested in my last project and all my future projects in Black female narratives. That's just something that drives me to those characters. I have a lot of black friends, Black gay friends. So this is a reality I have close to me, and an experience that I'm very interested in, because those are people that I love, that are surrounding me in a way. So this was really important to me, to have these stories of my friends that had these kind of challenges in their daily life, and being something that, me being a man, I have no way to relate in a personal level as my experience. That actually makes me more interested in talking about that, because I can learn in the process. I can learn through the exchange between me and the actors, between me and my friends, when I do research, when I talk about the film, and also to kind of portray generation that is very, very explosive in a nice way, that is putting their mark in the world, non-apologetic in a way. So this is something that also was very important for Mars One narrative, to have this clash between father and daughter in a way, and how they different perspectives might come to a single goal, which is love in a way. So that was what I was driven to the stories, because we see many families falling apart. And since this film is also set in a scenario of political crisis in Brazil, because the film starts with the election of Jair Bolsonaro, which is our current president, which is a very, very violent man, especially towards the Black community, and most especially towards the LGBT community. So he's a very homophobic, a very evil man in a way. So this is something that when an election like that happens, we feel the most for the people who are actually very vulnerable in this place. So this is also something that I felt important to talk about.
No, and I definitely think that it like you did in a really like amazing and stellar job at being able to uplift those storylines, because it's like you get to again see that like one, we don't always get the representation of like the African diaspora, right? Across the globe. Like, what does it look like to be Black in Brazil? But then also, then what does it also mean to be Black and queer? And then I love the juxtaposition, particularly around like one character that's like totally comfortable with her family, and then the other one where she's coming into who she is, and more so of like it's not like an announcing or coming out story, but more so an inviting in like for like the folks inside of her life, right? That like are her like parents and her brother. And it's funny because the next question is about the scene that like we see where we have the brother and the sister, and when he asks her if she's texting a boyfriend and she reveals like who it was like such a like beautiful scene because we know how the dynamics between brothers and sisters and siblings can be, right? Where it could be like she could have like passed it off, or she could have lied, or could have been like, mind your business, like stop bothering me, but she didn't. And so I wanted to know, like, when it came to that particular scene, what did you want the audience to walk away with in that moment?
Yeah, I feel like it's they kind of exchange secrets, because in another scene we will see the reverse when the brother shares a secret with his sister. And I think it's very beautiful, just as being siblings and having this kind of this exchange is more powerful because those are not just secrets they have, but this is something very vital to why they exist, is their choice of love. It's a passion project. So when they share this, I think they are kind of wanting to talk about the future in a way. So I always saw the relationship between the two of them as something that is looking at the future, what the future can be. And I think the brother is already there in a way, because for him kind of doesn't matter whether it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend. He assumed that it was a boyfriend, but as soon as he knows it's not, for him it's okay, it's not a big question. And I think that is very important in a way to Eunice and her character. So what I wanted to see through this scene and other scenes is that power between this kind of partnership that this brother and sister create to kind of stay healthy in a way. Even their parents are not evil or anything, but there are very subtle things they do that passes us a feeling of non-understanding in a way, of not being compassionate enough or having empathy enough for what they are going through. So they find this kind of structure that I think is also beautiful, the way Eunice kind of even financially sponsor her brother's project, and she does that with her new girlfriend. So it's something that this new arrangement of family of Eunice and Joanna can also be powerful in that way. They are actually becoming a pair that can provide things for her brother as well. And I think this is very beautiful to see that lesbian couple, not as being such a passion flick or something like that, but something that can be strong, even though it's very fast. They can have like a strong connection between them. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that was really like great. And honestly, partly of like what I was able to walk away from too, like inside of that scene, whereas like I love that it again has like this normalization and like this compassion of like, yeah, this is fine. Like it doesn't change anything at all. And so when we think about Mars One, you like in like the readings and stuff, it says that it's not an autobiographical film, but like David and you, like you have a lot in common, right? In that like one of the statements that you stated was that we dare to dream dreams that were not made for people like us. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you thought was and wasn't possible for you when you were growing up in Brazil?
Yeah, I grew up in the outskirts of my city, in not exactly in a favela as people might understand from outside of Brazil what is a favela, but definitely in the suburbs, and in a place that we didn't have any movie theater close by. We didn't have any place where I could study cinema nearby. Everything was far away. So it was not a very obvious choice to direct films, but for some reason I always thought about doing that. I have a drawing I did when I was like 8 to 9 years old from me in a movie set. So I have no idea where this came from, because no one in my family works with films. And I was just curious about that, but that curiosity became an obsession in a way. and I was very stubborn. And there was nothing that anyone could say that would take me away this idea of being a filmmaker. I just have to get this opportunity. So it took me a long time to even have a camera in my hands. So I think it was that, I think this is the way that I can relate to the character of being kind of obsessed with something and never taking no for an answer. And I'm just part of, I think, a community, especially talking about Black people, a community of dreamers, of people that doesn't let anyone take us down, despite the whole society, the whole system being designed for taking us down. So some of us can kind of slip through the cracks and get to some places, but it's still like a very difficult choice to make. And still nowadays, for many Black kids, Black children, to decide to pursue some career that was not meant or designed for them, even if being artistic or scientific, something to have anything that has to do with intellect. Maybe society doesn't think this is for us. Maybe even in well-developed societies like we are right now, racism is still something very strong and very alive in our daily basis. So in this way, I think I'm part of history, like they view in those kind of people, that I was very fortunate to have supportive parents. I was very fortunate to be like in the right place at the right time and finding other filmmakers from the same background as me that could share this passion. So we did a lot of films, everyone working for free, practicing cinema. And I know this is very rare, so I'm very thankful for everyone that crossed my way. And I hope in the future I'm not an exception anymore, and I'm trying to work every day to solve that issue, to help solve that issue with Brazilian cinema. And yeah.
No, and I think that's important because even when you talked about like how in the past like 10 years, right, that like you're just now starting to see Black directors that like are doing featured films in Brazil. And so how there's still like a pathway to go. And so it's like, even when you think about you going from having no idea and recollection to then being able to be one of the few folks that are creating inside of this space. And so it does like create, again, like a path forward for folks to see that like it is possible, and folks to dream the possibilities that continue to exist. And so thank you again for being able to create that space and being able to create like that light in the path for folks forward. I have one more question before like we wrap up, but it was interesting because it was thinking about, so Mars One was developed between 2015 and 2018, but it wasn't released until a couple of days ago in 2022. Like what made you like wait for like during that time period like to release it now? Like what made you feel as if like now was the time to tell this story?
Yeah, some of it was my choice, some of it was the world's choice. We finished filming in December 2018, so I had to take like at least 2 months off the film to kind of breathe a little bit so I could go back to the material in the editing. It was a very long editing for the whole year of 2019. As I said before, it was hard to find the balance between the characters, having to cut some things off and trying to find the best tone for the film. So I think by the end of 2019, we already had something that was very close to the final cut, but then the pandemic hit in 2020, and then we kind of slowed down the process in the post-production because we were trying to find more money to finish the film. We had some troubles because we couldn't shoot anything, so our production company was kind of trying to survive in a way. And it was just hard to travel to Brazil to finish the film, to do the sound, to do the soundtrack, to record some ad lib, to finish the post-production regarding image. Wasn't anything in my city, you know, so we kind of have to wait. I was very intensely in home office. In April 2020, also my first daughter was born, so I had this kind of very long time learning how to be a parent. So yeah, it was a lot of things that happened. But when 2021 started, we felt that it was the time to kind of go back to the project, and also because we didn't know what the festival was going to look like. So 2020 was like a very big question mark related to festivals. So we're kind of waiting also to see what that was going to be like. So in 2021, we have like some experiences we started to understand, but we wanted very much to premiere in Sundance. We had a feeling that this would be the festival. We haven't heard anything, but we were kind of waiting and still finishing the film and having this hope that Sundance might be it. So I think in the beginning 2021, we started to actually speeding up the post-production of the film, and it was ready by mid-year. So yeah, so that was pretty much, I think, mostly the pandemic and having a lot of question marks regarding the future of cinema. So yeah.
No, and I meant, and it's interesting because it literally, despite like the time that it took, like in between that, it still comes off as like a timeless, like in kind of airless like feel, right? And so I think the only thing that would probably date it would just be the president like just being announced. But even with that, like it's still your current president. And so
Yeah.
it's just one of
Yeah.
those things where it's like it's so like when I read that, I think that was one of the things that stood out as to how you were able to, as a director, just like capture like the focus of like these four like family members and really tell their stories. And so how you were able to like expand their life beyond like that gap of what it took from post-production up until its real premiere, and how it just remains like timeless. And so excited for, again, like the road ahead with Mars One, and like what all like you'll have like coming out for it. And so before we go, can you tell us a little bit more about what's next for Mars One, and if there's any future projects that you have planned?
Yeah, right now, Mars One is going to be screened in Gothenburg Film Festival in Sweden. And we have Magnolia Pictures International as our sales agent. So they're trying to find ways for the film. But right now, as it just premiered, this is something very, very fresh. The film is probably going to premiere in Brazil in August. And yeah, we still don't know much about the very soon future of Mars One, because recently just premiered 4 days ago, but we're already kind of planning and starting to develop. And I have some scripts that I'm developing. Most of them still need to find funds, because we are living a very dramatic time in Brazil, because we have pretty much no funds to produce, and we are very dependent on state funds to make our films. So this is a question mark that worries me, but I guess that I think we might be solving or starting to solve this issue in this next election, when we might take out this president that is making our lives very difficult. So yeah, this might be a year of hope in a way. So as you were saying before, maybe this is the perfect year to launch a film like this, because we really need hope and really need to be positive that changes might come. So yeah, this is what I have like fresh that I can say. Some projects I can't say yet, but yeah, just everyone keep up with Mars One. We'll be trying to like give information through Magnolia Pictures and other partners about our new feature. Yeah.
Cool. And how can people like find and connect and support you? And so if they want to learn more about like the work that you're doing, or want to support directly like you, like for that, is there a website or Instagram or social media or anything that like folks can like just stay connected with you, Gabriel?
Yeah, I think maybe the easiest way would be through my Instagram, which is at Gabyto Martins, my last name. So it's Gabito Martins. And this is what my Instagram at. You can hit me up and follow. I'm always posting about any news about film. So yeah, this will be a perfect place to make some information and talk to me. If you guys want to talk anything about film, have some questions, I'll be more than open to do that.
Well, we'll do that. And before we go, just for folks that are watching it, if you're not in Utah or haven't participated yet in Sundance, it's not too late. You can check out the satellite screen showtimes for Mars One, which will be happening and playing in person around the United States, starting on Friday, January 28th through Sunday, January 30th. And those locations will happen in Amherst, Massachusetts, Lawrence, Kansas, Seattle, Washington, Baltimore, Maryland, Memphis, Tennessee, where I have some folks there, San Diego, California, and Winston-Salem, North Carolina. You can feel free to visit festival.sundance.org to learn more and how to catch Mars One in a city near you.